It is considered Lebanon, Tennessee, and then Lebanon is the country.
It's how we keep it separate. We're not very educated over here.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to debate that.
That's a good call. There's nothing to debate.
Just let it ride. Let it ride. Yep.
All right. Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, designer enthusiasts, manufacturer wannabes, and soon-to-be publishers. My name is Jared, his name is Ian, and with us is our actual publisher friend, Jay Bernardo from Bezier Games. Say hi, Jay.
Hello, I am a publisher friend.
We will be your hosts for the episode. We are honored and grateful that you have joined us at our table. Here at the Game Table Podcast, we take a look at various board, card, and other tabletop games. We give an overview, provide a little insight on how to play, and share some of our thoughts, all in an attempt to give you an idea of how well it would fit for you and your table. Today, we will be talking about a brand new game only a few have seen. The Game Makers, designed by Ben Rosset and published by Bezier Games.
The Game Makers is a game where you become the manufacturer of board games. You will have to make tough decisions about what components you want to use or what types of games you want to be known for. And most of all, manufacture the best games on the market. This game will include over 300 real-life board games, all inside the box. All of your favorite games, ready to be sold. Let's discuss the Game Makers.
All right, Jay, we always start with a brand new question that only you can answer. All right, if you could pick only one, would you rather open up and run a successful manufacturing company, a publishing company, or be a successful designer in the tabletop space? You can only have one.
Ooh, I'll go with publisher.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any particular
That's
reason?
what I feel more. Manufacturing is a little cold. It's just project management. It's just dates. Like, you give me files, I make it. There might be some creativity involved with the engineering and the process of the game. Like, well, if we change this, engineer this a certain way, maybe that'll help you out and meet your goals. Because you're just not as much creativity as I want. There's creativity in the engineering and the construction of what the publisher wants. And the publisher gets all the creativity. You get to create the specs. You get the creative box, if that's what you want to focus on for the marketing. Designer is a lot more free range. I can just kind of do what I want. But I do have to rely on my own creativity to design games. As a publisher, I can just license games, and that's something that I find more appealing. I like that idea of finding a game in one market and bringing it over to another. I find that a lot of fun and fascinating.
Very cool. Ian, what about you?
Oh, no. I don't know. I mean, I don't want to do any of it. I just want to play games.
There you go.
That's a really good answer.
Yeah, I mean, maybe, yeah. I mean, I just want to be the play tester. How about that?
I was going to say, Jay likes you because you'll go buy his games, and then it's a great circle that goes around.
That's the decision.
Can I just quit my job and then just play games? That's what I.
That's what we all aspire to, right?
I'm just telling you that we will have, when we retire, we will be the greatest generation because we will have the coolest stuff to play with.
It's true. It's true. I think that's an excellent assessment.
I hope so.
So I think I'm going to take manufacturing. Part of it is that I'm too afraid of not having enough creativity for publishing or designing, but there's also something in manufacturing where I get to help make somebody else's dream come true. And that's something that I aspire to almost daily, is helping people achieve their goals, figure out how to make it work. And so I think there's a lot of that in manufacturing. And so I'm very much drawn to that. So if I had to pick one, that's the route I would go.
Aww.
Anyways.
You sound like a dad.
I am a dad.
Oh, there it is.
That's why.
I'm lucky to have 3 little girls. So it's great stuff.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But yeah. So Jay, welcome back and congratulations.
Good to be back.
On your own YouTube channel with Cardboard East, crossing 5K in your subscriber count.
Woo!
Yeah, that was something. It was I remember seeing my subscriber count at 50, and I remember someone asking me, "I was like, oh, how many followers do you have?" And me having to say 50.
I understand that a lot, actually.
That's right.
But
So it's been a fun, really long journey. I would say it's one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life, though, is to create content. I think it's when you create content, especially about something that you're passionate about, it's a ticket to the extraordinary because you never know where it's going to take you next.
that's awesome. All right, so today we are talking about the Game Makers. We got this game, and it's coming to Kickstarter. Is it July or August? I couldn't remember what you told me earlier.
We are thinking like early September, late August,
Okay.
somewhere around there.
Yeah. Okay. Very cool. And feel free to jump in, man. I'm just going down our list here.
Yeah, no, you're good. Yeah, we know Bezier has done stuff with Ben before. Now, how did this, process come up with him? How this relationship about this game, and then we'll dive into the game itself as well. But how did this relationship start, and how did, of this game, the Game Makers, where did this journey begin?
Well, I guess we could all start with the designer, Ben Rosset. The Ben Rosset, if in case for people who don't know who Ben is an accomplished board game designer. He did The Search for Planet X, The Search for Lost Species. He did Between Two Cities, Between Two Castles. He did Fromage. I mean, he's done other ones, but those are his big hits.
Fantastic games.
Yeah, fantastic games. And it's interesting because people are always asking me like, how did I get into the industry? How did I do this? And I always think of Ben's story, which is the Between Two Cities, way back in like 10 years ago, 2015, right? When it got published. He was just playtesting it like at Gen Con. He was there, boots on the ground, just playtesting it. And then he just saw Janie Stegmeyer. It's like, hey, do you want to play our game? We need another person for the table. Nothing pitching, nothing like that. Just like, hey, do you want to just fill in this empty chair? And Jamie tried it and liked it. And it was this idea and Jamie had sat there because he had heard of the game and he had seen them around at circuits. There's this concept and an idea of boots on the ground in this industry is definitely how you break in. 10 years later, where Ben is now, Ben actually works for Panda Manufacturing, which is the #1 manufacturer of board games in the world. They're located in China. So we contact with Ben all the time because we're talking with Panda all the time. And then Ben eventually approached us about a game about board game manufacturing. And at that time, it was a very, very different game. It had a conveyor belt. And if you can imagine, not even like a circle, just like a line. Mm-hmm. Imagine planks of wood falling, and then you would have to take a plank of wood and then put it at the top. Like just this constant thing, very fiddly. And I'm sitting here playing this, and Ted is showing this to me. Ted Alsbach, the CEO of Bezier Games, is like, "Yeah, this is the new game." I'm like, "I don't see it. I don't. Why? I don't get it. Where's the fun of this?" And eventually, I pulled Ted to the side. And I was like, "Look, I do marketing for Bezier, and I need your help. I need you to sell me on the stream so I could help sell others on this. Like, why do you love this game so much? Like, where's the potential that you see?" And then he told me about this idea of like, well, the idea would be to actually have real games, not just like made up games, but get the licensing for real games, because he's been in the industry for a very long time. And so he knows a lot of the publishers, knows them by name, ways hiding them at conventions, things like that. And so getting licenses to use and create actual games is one. And then two, you could support this game almost indefinitely. Like every year, every expansion could just be a deck of cards. Oh, this is the hot games from last year. Hot games of 25, hot games of 26, hot games of 27. And so it was that idea that had me really, really excited about the game. And then once Ben tinkered with it a little bit more, and Ted tinkered with it as well, because Ted's a really good developer, that one line rectangle became a circle, which you played with, the wheel. Yep. Mm-hmm. And that just made the game pop and flow so much smoother, far less fiddly. And everything began to fall into place after that. But it was this fun idea of like, he wanted to do a reverse Zolkin. So if anyone listening there hasn't played Zolkin, it's essentially just a worker placement game. You place your worker on this giant Aztec wheel, and the longer you wait to take your worker back, the better your resource will be. So as you're waiting for a level 1, level 2, level 3 corn or whatever, you have fewer workers. But you're going to get something really cool in return. And it adds this time element to the game. Well, Game Makers does the same thing, except in reverse. So you put your worker down, and you immediately get your resource. But then you have to wait to get your worker back. So that little twist makes the game simultaneous play, moves a lot faster, and makes the overall experience feel a lot lighter, especially when it compared to Tzolk'in.
Yeah.
But it's something that it grew on me, and then like it's over time, like the rest of the team grew to really, really love it as well, and we're all super excited and super nervous moving into the summer as the campaign comes.
I love hearing about because I feel like every game is it originates from a different place. Like it's never the same way that a game comes about. It's always there's always this unique story of how everything gets developed, each process, each component, each game mechanic. And so I love how these processes are made. And so I don't know how much you're allowed to go into the actual gameplay because you've kind of touched on it. Are you able to give us a little bit of a very good overview, a brief overview at all?
Yeah, absolutely. I could go deep dive more into it. Essentially, what happens is that you have these little workers, which are forklifts, inside this big wheel that sits at the center of the table. That's the big Instagrammable board game component. It's this giant wheel that sits at the center of the table. And that's where essentially all the board game components are. On your turn, you'll take your forklift and you'll put it into a section of the warehouse. And that sections all do different things. One section might give you cards, one section might give you plastic, wood, meeples, plastic, wood, paper. I can't remember all the things on the top of my head.
All of the different kinds of things.
All different things. And so each component you have is then multi-purpose. So the cards you get could become contracts, which could later become board games that you manufacture, or they can become cards, components to fulfill those contracts. The plastics could be components to fulfill contracts, or they can be put into your factory to unlock special abilities and endgame scoring, things like that. Wood components could be, again, used to fulfill contracts, or they become workers for this light worker placement that happens inside your factory, activating special abilities, creating more board game components. You could also get punchboard, which again could help you fulfill contracts or help you build this assembly line, which gives you further discounts for your components. That way, like your factory just gets better at making punchboard or making plastic or making meeples or dice. The dice are really fun because again, you could use them to fulfill the contracts, or you roll them. And then whatever number it is, you increase your marketing by that much. And marketing is really important in this game because you can make the best war games on the planet, but if no one knows about it, no one's going to go to your company and you're not going to score any points. So you really have to invest in that. And deciding when to push marketing is a fun part of the game. Like, do I do it? If I do it in the middle of the game, well, then I'm kind of committing to a particular strategy. Do I wait to the end? But I'm risking the fact that someone else could trigger the end game, and then I don't have my marketing up all the way. So there's a little bit of back and forth. The added addition to that is that, well, there are different types of games, and they each score differently. Like there's a set collection, which I believe is blue, and they're kind of set on like engine building and building up your tableau. Like, oh, if you have XYZ type of games, you get XYZ points. There are purple cards, which are the cooperative games. So if I build cooperative cards and you build cooperative cards, then we can score cooperatively together, depending on how many sets that we make. War games work very similar to war and like, I guess, Seven Wonders, where if I have more war games than other people, then I have certain victories, and then I get X amount of points for X amount of victories. And then because we live in the 2020s, there's being eco-friendly is also really important, and you can put trees and plant trees near your factory, and therefore you could score points for trees as well. And all of that is this dance that you have to do that takes place about maybe 60 to 75 minutes, regardless of the number of players, from 1 to 6 players.
Wow.
And the best part of the game is it's always that one part of the game where you don't expect, right? You'll read the rules of the game. You like sit down, okay, I think I get it. And when you're playing it, you get this nice little twist. Like Knizia is famous for that, right? Where he has like these famous rules where like, oh, that's what I should have been doing.
Yeah.
And like the moment for this game is being torn between your favorite game or a game you hate. Right. You'll have to choose between, I really love this game. I can make this game. I can make my favorite game. It's not going to score me a lot of points. I'll feel good inside, but I might lose this game. Or I hate this game, but it fits my strategy.
Yeah.
Do I just do it? And it's funny as a gamer to be in those weird moments because that really doesn't happen in other games. And being in the industry, it's even funnier because I've seen publishers, the Galactic Cruise guys. They played the game makers, and one was like, "Oh look, I got our card." He showed everyone, and it's like, "Oh yay, it's the Galactic Cruise card," and they're all excited. And then there was this moment of like, "So are you gonna build it?" And
Swap it.
Yeah.
And TK had this look of like. And he put it face down as a component, and the rest of his
incredible
publishing team was like, "What are you doing? You have to. I'm here to win this game." It's like, obviously not win our game, and like it's the banter back and forth between that is really fun, and it captures something that I think every gamer can relate to. Is that when you look at your board game shelf, in the day or at night when you're going to bed or something like that, you'll see games, but you'll also see those memories of those games that you've played. You'll see those fun moments there.
Yeah.
And you see a wall of memories. And when you play Game Makers and you're filling your own display case of games, like your own little mini Kalex of games that you've manufactured, you can see these games and you can have those moments of like, oh man, I love that game. I remember that game. I haven't played that game in a long time. I want to revisit that game. And it gives you this weird meta happy feeling. And that's why I love the Game Makers.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So that kind of segues pretty well right into the next question of, I was really curious, when you're pitching this game to other publishers who have the rights to these games, what's like the initial reaction? Are they excited? Is there a little bit of trepidation? What's the response there?
I didn't do this. I'm going to give a shout out to our licensing program manager, Renee, who wrote 600 emails.
Wow.
Something like some ungodly amount of emails.
Oh my gosh.
There's a collective sigh all around the world for people listening to this podcast going, that's a lot of emails.
Yes.
You know what those emails must be like, of just emailing people. They didn't respond, email back. Because publishers get, "Oh, you gotta check out this game," all the time. "Oh, okay, yeah, great, take it, put it on the pile." And then sometimes it's just trying to email them through other means, contact them through other means, meeting them face to face. These are conversations that we had, Spiel. A lot of people go to Essen Spiel, largest board game convention in the world, in Germany, for buying games, and you totally should because it's a lot of fun. But publishers go to make licensing deals of "Oh, you have this game, I like this game, I could bring this game over, blah blah blah." But there's also Nuremberg Toy Fair, which is the largest toy fair. These Germans, they love board games and toys.
Sure.
And
Yes.
well, people will go to Nuremberg to continue that conversation from Spiel, and that's why we went. We went to Nuremberg this year, or Renee went all by herself. Without speaking a lick of German, just going there, trying to convince people to pick up the game to license this. I remember the week before she left, she's like, "Jay, can you make a video about Game Makers?" I'm like, "What do you mean?" She's like, just to show the components, the gameplay. Make it something like a minute." I'm like, "You are gonna get on a plane in 2 days, and you want me to film and edit something?" And she's like, "Yeah, it just doesn't have to be great. Just I'm like, "Okay, I'll try." And so I had to record something, and I made it really very, very tongue in cheek. And I used licensed music because, hey, why not? You could do all you want with it. And then she showed this around to publishers. She would show them the video. She would give them the forklift, your worker that you have in the game. And so they would pick it up and look at it. And then she'd show them the video. And then she showed them, so that way, the idea was that you hold the forklift in your hand, so you have an idea of scale what the game is. And then you see the video, so you see how big the game is. And then you see other components that she brought with you to kind of outlay this idea of what this game is. And the game is, the pitch was that essentially it's look, we're going to make a game about manufacturing the best board games of all time. And we want one of your games to be in that deck. And it's free advertising for you, and people get to make your game, and it'll be just a lot of fun. And over 100 publishers had said yes. That took a long time. Not everyone said yes up front. Some were bigger ships and had a turn. I got to ask my supervisor, who's got to ask their supervisor, who asked their supervisor, and then respond all the way back. But it was really fun to to get those. And some of them all asked for different things, and their contracts are very, very different. But it was just, and I think there was a lot of confusion too with people. Like, what do you mean you want our game? You want to use our art? It's like, we just want to use the cover of the game, and we're going to put it on a card. That's it. That's all we're doing. So people just see that. So you're not going to use like the components. It's like, no, we're not going to put your game in our game. We're just going to take the cover of your game, like a little 1x1 picture, put it in a card, and that's it. That's what we're doing. It's like, oh, okay. And people were really excited about it. People were this is something that people always wanted to do. I think there was a BGG game about buying games that came up, I don't know, like 20 years ago.
I know what you're talking about.
It's terrible.
It is. It is.
It's a terrible game. Like but people were really excited about it. They're like, oh, we always wanted to do this. We're glad you're doing it, so we don't have to. And you're a good publisher. We trust you to do that. So it's became really fun and exciting to see more and more publishers join. And as soon as more and more publishers join, then we could add them to this list of like, and this pitch and be like, hey, all these other publishers said yes. All the cool kids are coming to the party. And so, and other publishers were like, okay. And some publishers had weird things like, oh, if our games got to be in there, well, then it's got to have blah, blah, blah on the card. It's got to have blah, blah, blah on the card. And you got to see like these little wrinkles of gamers that are still in these publishers. Like they're publishers, they do business, but they're still gamers on the inside.
Right.
And it was really fun to see that. But it was a struggle, a lot of emails. And like every time we would do playtesting, we were like, I got to write some more emails. She's like, okay.
No.
But there was, I think my favorite story, the story that I tell to everyone about the development process is that we're sitting at a table and we're trying to discuss like, what should the cover be? And I pitched the idea of like a school of rock, like just the game makers and maybe just like a pile of games. And that's it. Nothing special. Just, I mean, the game is about the games. So just have a pile of games on the box. And then went through several iterations and eventually someone said like, well, do we have the art to use the side boxes? And then we all like the art of the side of the box. And then everyone looked at Renee and she's like, no, we have the rights to use the cover of those boxes. And it's like, well, you got to email them and get the side art. And she's like, oh
no.
And you could see it was really funny because you could see that like her life flashing before her eyes in that meeting. It's just like, no. And it was just a little addendum like in the contracts because then like every game had to have a different contract and it had to be signed by everyone again. And it was just really, really fun.
That's crazy.
Wow.
But the cover looks fun. It looks really fun. You get to see all the games and it's exciting.
I agree. I remember we were going to Knoxville for Fun Gay Town and you and I had been emailing before that and you're like, yeah, I got a new thing I want to show you. And I don't know if this was an intentional pivot or just a cover code name or whatever. You're like, oh yeah, we're going to be showing off, some maglev maps that are coming up for a Kickstarter or whatever. And then we get in there and there's this awesome banner for the game makers. And I was like, oh my gosh, this looks awesome. Like completely drawn in just by that piece of art for the box cover.
Yeah. It's wild because like it's one thing when you see the cover for one game, but when you see other games in the cover of another game, you're like, what's that about?
Exactly.
Like, can they do that? Is that cool? But it was really fun to see Knoxville. Like Funky Town is a nice little board game convention here in Knoxville, and people came to play it, and you got to see everyone's face light up like, oh, whoa, what? Yeah. I get to play this game that has all these other games, and it was really interesting to see everyone's reaction to it and have people talk about like the games, like, oh, you have that game, that's a great game. It's like, oh, that game sucks. And just to hear the conversation like that takes place on top of that game is an actual fun layer to it. It was just a lot of fun.
No, I think so when we got a chance to trial it, and that was definitely my reaction of, okay, like, man, we get to produce the games, and then you're like, actually, you can use this board game and then use it as a card in another game. You can use it as for manufacturing instead, and so you're like, well, oh man, I love Arc Nova, but I can't do it now. I can't do it.
You're not built for it. You weren't building Arc Nova. You were doing a completely different thing.
I was doing something else.
You weren't ready for Arc Nova. You weren't ready.
But I guess, so that's one of my favorite things. But I feel like, is there anything else that you're just, when y'all were going through the process of this game, you're like, that is something that's just, I love them, and that's other people are gonna love.
We've gone through so many iterations of the game. It's been a minute. Like, I remember when we have 3 different size workers, and all the components are 3 levels, right? You have like
Yeah.
level 1, level 2, level
Right.
3. So like you have punch board of level 1, level 2, level 3. You have plastic buildings of level 1, level 2, level 3. And we had meeples, which are the wood components, which are level 1, level 2, level 3. And the level 2 is your standard meeple, more or less that meeple shape, because the shape has lots of, you can't have certain shapes or whatever. But like level 3 was going to be a big panda. And we had this weird debate inside, like, and it was going to be big, like the size of your thumb. Because like, yeah, let's just do it. And then afterwards, we're like, when we got the quote of like how much it would cost, like, oh, okay, we'll have a smaller panda.
Can't do the big panda anymore.
But in a prototype, like we had like these big pandas that were just hilarious to look at, and they were just kind of silly, but it was just fun to be like, oh, you know, this will be fun. Let's have like giant pandas. It'll be really cute. And then there was this weird thing. It was like, well, do humans and pandas work together in this universe? Like, what are we their slaves? Are they our slaves? Are they indentured servants? What's going on? And it became this like, weird debate, and like, and eventually I'm like, pandas are fun, and that's why they're in the game.
Yeah.
Period.
There
End
you
of
go.
discussion.
And that's why. It's just fun.
That's right.
And it's a little wink, because you know, Panda Manufacturing is our partner in manufacturing this game.
Right.
And like, okay. And so pandas are
awesome.
fun, and that's it.
Sure.
There
I
you
mean,
go.
maybe there are overlords in the future. I
Right.
don't see that happening because they're some of the laziest animals on the planet. But
It's all a ruse, Jay. They're just waiting for their
That's right.
moment.
Yeah.
it could be. But yeah, some of the pandas were like probably one of the things that we talked about as well.
That's fun.
We had like containers. You have a container that holds all like every player's components, and it's shaped like a container, like a shipping container.
That's cool.
And that was really cool to create. And
Yeah.
all these little iterations that we did throughout the game have been fun, especially like the art, like putting little art in places here and there, putting
Yeah.
Easter eggs in the art for people to find.
Oh, the player boards.
Tons
The
of
player
fun.
boards are awesome, man. Just like all the different things that you have going on, but it also, the way the art is laid out really helps kind of separate out the different sections of what you need to be focusing on, whether it's marketing or your workers or whatever. And I just feel like you guys found the right balance there of all this cute art, but also this is what you're looking for.
It was hard. It was really hard to find that balance. And that was a big debate, because the original boards were just kind of blank. They kind of looked like, I call them Pac-Man boards, because they were just like two tones of color, like one tone and then one highlighted color that kind of outlines the areas. And the marking, still had the little dots, which kind of looked like the Pac-Man maze, which is why I
Yeah,
called them the
yeah.
Pac-Man boards. And it was very clean and it was very functional. But I'm just sitting there at the table, like, this is boring. Like, it's very clean, it's very functional. But we live in the 2020s, and it's got to be big, bright, and beautiful. I don't
Right.
want something that's too loud. That's like too loud and too confusing to read, because you have to have that nice balance. So we had to tinker around with some ideas of like how to hide that in the arts, how to make that art appear. But like the break room where you put your workers, like as your it's like where the workers are. Yeah, we should call that the break room. There should be a picture of a break room, and then all the meeples are there, and that's what just makes sense and makes it cute and fun.
Yep.
Yeah.
So is that more, so I know that, Bezier, amongst all these other, the majority of board game publishing teams are pretty small. So you are the marketing guy, but I imagine
Yeah.
you also have influence over the design of the game to help kind of navigate what a customer wants. So how does that
Well,
how does
Jared,
that work?
I design all the games and develop all the games just myself. It's really, I'm just,
In his hand and
he just has his brandy and cigar and just
Yeah.
looking at his sticker. Yes. And twinkles his monocle. No, it's a team effort. I do, one of the reasons why I was brought on board was because I am a gamer and I can help with development. I did help develop some things for the game. I mean, we all play the game and we're like, okay, this needs tweaking here. So, we tweaked this. It's like, okay, well, I'm going to go with a blue strategy this game. We're going to go with an orange strategy, things like that. So I do a lot of the play testing as well. My favorite thing that I added to the game was that was probably the tiebreaker. There was a debate about the tiebreaker, and I was like, oh no, the tiebreaker has to be whoever built the highest ranked game on BGG.
Yeah.
That's the tiebreaker.
It's an awesome
And they're like,
tiebreaker.
what? And I'm like, that's going to change over time. Like, who cares? That's what makes it fun.
Yeah.
And so that
actually makes it better.
Because,
it makes it better that it can constantly change what is the top game.
Yeah, and it makes it feel that and it's funny because now when you play the game and you pull Brass Birmingham, you're like, this is the tiebreaker of all tiebreakers. If I get this,
yeah.
And I have lost a game to Brass Birmingham, and it's frustrating.
Wow.
And like it was a tie, and I remember Ryan, our logistics manager, he just holds up the Brass Birmingham card and just looks at me, and I'm like, no.
That's awesome.
And
yeah.
But yeah, it's fine. And and then there were complaints of like, well, I have to check and look at all these games individually. So we've been training an app to just read it for us.
Yeah.
So you just hold your camera, and then it'll glance out and it'll tell you the rankings of all the games on your display case. And so that way you don't have to guess and you have to look them up. And it should take like 10 seconds.
No, that's very exciting. And I'll just say this and then toss it back to Ian. I just want to applaud Bezier as a team for hating ties.
Aww.
The fact that you guys go to such lengths to remove ties,
it's true.
It warms my heart. Truly, it does.
I'm the odd man out. I don't see a problem with ties,
man.
Jared.
I
don't see a problem with ties. Maybe I should like soccer more. I don't know.
There you
go. But I don't see a problem with ties. And it's like, I don't think there needs to be a tiebreaker.
I think it's the last part of the ultra competitive part of me that I haven't let go of yet, where there has to be a winner. Like I used to be a lot more competitive than I am. I've kind of generally shifted more into, I want to throw a good event, or I want to, host, and I still compete. I still want to win, but it's not the be all end all like it used to be. But that part of me has always been so ingrained in there's no ties. Like there's a winner and there's a loser.
It's funny because like I say that I don't see a problem with ties, but I do love tiebreakers. Like I do like
right.
I love them in the sense of that the idea of what arbitrary thing did the designer choose to break ties. Now, sometimes it's not arbitrary. Sometimes it's like, well, if they did this, then technically they probably played better. So therefore they deserve the tiebreaker.
Sure, yeah.
But it's always, to me, I'm always curious what that tiebreaker is. And I don't like tiered tiebreakers of like, there's the first tiebreaker, there's the second, there's the third, there's the fourth, there's the sixth. And my least favorite tiebreaker is the turn order one. It's like, well, it's got to be turn order because then there you go. And I'm like, oh, does it have to be?
It does not. It doesn't have to be.
I just want something like nice and clean, simple, like highest ranked game on BGG. Or I think the Castles of Mad King Ludwig, the second edition one, like the be all end all tiebreaker is if you're tied with all, like I think it's like the sixth or seventh tiebreaker, is that whoever grabs the first player token wins the game. Whoever
That's
just
awesome.
grabs it.
We'll just
because does it matter at that point?
No. I guess I mean I'm trying to think of other games that have tiebreakers that are like, whoever had the most of this, and I'm like, well, we were all collecting that. Like, what? So like I wasn't necessarily focused on having the most. I was also trying to use the main way to winning the game, which is usually the most amount of points. So yeah, I like it when there is some uniqueness to it and it throws a little twist on there. I think that's really helpful. So anyway.
It's just that I guess I used to play with very competitive groups when I lived in Taiwan. And they'll be like, what's the tiebreaker? I'm like, why does that matter? It's like, it determines everything. It changes everything. Like if it's money, I got to collect money throughout the game. If it's cards, I got to collect more cards. If it's grass, I got to collect more grass. I'm like,
they asked before the game even started.
It's like,
I have never in my life ever asked the tiebreaker before the game started. I can say that.
Well, what have you been doing with your life, Ian?
Now you're not focused on winning the game.
Maybe that's why I lose so often. Maybe that's why.
But the people would ask that. It's just wild.
That's
I'm like, can we just focus on playing the game correctly first?
That's right.
Jared, for now on, every time you teach me a game, I'm asking what the tiebreaker is.
And I'm gonna say I don't know, and you can ask me when we're 3/4 of the way through. So
That's right. So, Jay, when we're talking about this game, because so when we were able to look at it, and
Mhm.
within 10 seconds of Ben explaining it, I was like, okay, I'm gonna like this. And so, what is that process like for like a game company, for yourself, like looking at these games? I know you get pitched a lot of games. When it's something different, what's that feeling? How do you know? Like, I mean, maybe you don't know, you just feel it. Like, what is that process though when you're like, okay, seems different. It feels different.
Yeah, that's always something. I think it's a tricky question because when I get pitched a game, the first thing I'm asking myself, like, one, is it a good game?
Uh-huh.
Naturally. And then two, is it a good game? Is it a Bezier game? And I think that a lot of people don't think about that often. So a great example would be, let's say, I'm trying to think of some. Okay, Oink games,
Sure.
right? Yeah. Uh, would Ark Nova be a good Oink game? Right?
Yeah.
No. Like Jared's shaking his head, like absolutely not.
That'd be terrible.
Like you wouldn't pitch Terraforming Mars to Oink.
Sure.
I mean, I would love to see their version of Terraforming Mars.
Right.
I'm sure it would look fantastic. I certainly hope it would play in under 3 hours, but it's not an Oink game, right? And so when I'm looking at games for Bezier, that's the first thing I'm thinking about is it a good game? Is it a Bezier game? And then is it a game that fits with the current market?
Mhm.
Like, is this something that the market is looking for right now? Like a roll and write. I'm sure there are roll and writes. There's great roll and writes still being made, but I don't want to say that ship has sailed, but the buzz of those has kind of died down a little bit. Like the market has been like, okay, we've seen that. Let's move on to something else.
Yeah.
So there's something wrong with that. It's just like that's just how everything goes.
Sure.
Like there could be a trend of like there's too many horror movies, there's too many fantasy movies. Like you come up with a fantasy movie too soon after Lord of the Rings, and then people just compare it to Lord of the Rings, right? So it's that like people feel kind of tired of superhero.
I was going to say,
films.
even Marvel within its own IP is getting worn down.
Yeah, right. But every now and then you see something really cool, like the Spider-Verse films
Sure.
are fantastic.
Absolutely.
So it's that question where I'm looking at. The feeling though that I have though when I play a game, I'm like, I think it's always that same level of excitement as a gamer, because that's how I approach games as a gamer first, where it's like, oh, this is going to be a fun game.
Yeah.
And it's always a great feeling when you're reading a rule book and you're like, oh, I'm going to love this game.
Yeah.
Like I cannot wait to get this to the table. Like you're reading the rules and you're like, oh yeah, this makes sense. This makes sense. This game's going to rock. It's going to slap. I can't wait. And it's that moment of when you play the game and you think this could be a Bezier game. And then I show it, to Ted and be like, is this a Bezier game? And then it's more of a business decision for him than it is vibes.
Right.
But there are a lot of things like that go in there. And sometimes it's just, I want to say that it's like this fun, cool vibe feel of like, ooh, I got a spider sensation. But the business part just takes over. Is there art? Is there art? Is that art really good? Is the art really good? Because that means we might have to take the art. If not, then we have to get other art. And are people going to compare our art with that art and be like, oh, I don't want that art. I want the old art. I want, and like, I love gamers, but they can be the worst sometimes.
Oh, 100%. No, I get it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They could be like, oh, the texture on the old cards was so much better than the texture on the new cards. Or the punch board was like half a millimeter thinner or thicker. And I'm like, dude. So it's like picking up like a licensed game is always, and then sometimes just things don't translate well.
Right.
And like, so even with game makers, as excited as I am about game makers and as exciting as a project as it is, it's still like, will it do well? I don't know. There's that lingering doubt there of like, will people just feel like, meh? Like, no, it's.
You should feel confident. Okay.
I do feel confident in it. Like when like Zombie Princess, I knew, like when we played Zombie Princess, the first iterations of Zombie Princess, which is one of our other games coming out, which is the sequel to Rebel Princess. The princesses were zombies and you were feeding them townsfolk. And I was like, this does not work. This does not work. I don't like it. It just doesn't fit.
Mm-hmm.
And when we made that thematic switch of, well, maybe the princesses are just armed. Like they just have tons of weapons and they're just slaughtering hordes of zombies.
Yes.
And then when we made that suggestion, you could see, I remember seeing the whole room. Everyone was like, that's it. That's the idea. And there's like that pin drop moment of like, everyone was like, I'm excited about this game now. And it's great. And the moment that we played it and seeing other people hear about it and they see it like on April Fool's, when we announced it on April Fool's Day,
Yeah.
people were like, what? Can this be real? Please?
I was
Please?
fooled. I was fooled. I thought it was fake.
But it was great though, because I was thinking like, I think Ted asked us, like, when do you want to announce Zombie Princess? I was like, April Fool's. It has to be April Fool's.
Yeah.
And it was like, really? Isn't that just kind of contrived? I'm like, no, this is the best. Because then people will talk about it. I was like, is it real? I kind of want it not to be. And then have it be real. And then it kind of also gives us a gauge of like, do people actually like this? I don't know. And then the response was fantastic. People were like, oh, can you just make this anyway? I know this is April Fool's, but can you make this anyway? And like, yeah, we've made it already. And people were like, oh. And they were.
No, because that was my reaction. I was like, okay, this is a joke, right? This has got to be. And then like, I think like not too long after like an actual post was made about it. And I'm like, my mind's blown. That was actually real. Y'all got me good. Yeah. It was funny because like Tom Bassel came up to us at GAMA, which is like a B2B board gamers manufacturing convention. He goes like, I lost a bet. I could have sworn it would be Werewolf Princess, but you went with Zombie Princess. It's like, I'm sorry, you lost your bet, Tom.
Well,
but you gotta pay the piper.
Nice. I am curious. So if it had bombed when you like pretend for real announced it, have you ever had a situation where you felt really good about a game, and then before it was released, you kind of got an initial like, "Are you guys sure? Like, is this really the direction you want to go?"
I think that doesn't happen to us as much anymore. I know every publisher, every designer, every creative out there has had that moment.
I mean, there's a lot of bad games,
like,
and that's okay. Like, you got to find bad to get to the good, right?
Well, I think it's just like sometimes you're just in your voice bubble, right? Like you got to bring the game out. So you got to bring your art to people outside of your bubble who will be like, no, it's crap. Be like, why? Yeah. So, but just to get a difference of opinion, to get outside of your echo chamber. So we playtest our games quite a lot, and we show them to different groups, and we take them to huge play groups all around. So we do get a diverse opinion on these things, and it's interesting that some people it resonates some with others and doesn't rate well with others. But I think Zombie Princess is one of the ones where we just knew that it's going to work.
Yeah,
and like it was just enough time. Like I said before, like if this was like 50, like maybe 10 years ago, like there's horror movies and zombies were a thing, like it'd have been too much, right? There was too much zombicide out there. Like, okay, it's another zombicide. There's another zombie TV show.
Yeah.
But now it's about time. It's about right. You're like, yeah, you can have a good zombie game come out right about now. And people are like, yeah, I like zombies. Why did I give them such a hard time? There's some great zombie movies out there.
That's right.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And the framing too, like you just having the empowered princesses be the protagonist 100%. Of like kicking butt out there. That's great.
100% agree with that. Before we leave Game Makers, I am curious if you're willing to speak on the Kickstarter process, because I know it's a bit different than your normal process, right? As far as running that campaign, how that process goes about. So do you prefer it? Is it something that you're kind of dreading a little bit, but you kind of feel like you need it because of the deluxe components and that sort of thing?
The Kickstarter process as a whole, the question is, do you go straight to retail or do you go for Kickstarter? And if it's a bigger, expensive game, usually you go to Kickstarter. But that's not also necessarily true. I would say like All Play uses, they have like lots of games that come out, multiple Kickstarter. The other advantage of Kickstarter is that it's a great marketing tool, right? So if I just release it out to retail, then people know about it through maybe influencer marketing, or people find out about my marketing that I do like through the publisher. But if I do it on Kickstarter, then there's all these third parties that get involved. Like Kickstarter sends out newsletters, all the third parties like BackerKit or other people who do that. There are influencers who specialize just on games that are being crowdfunded, and they talk about your game. So it's this extra boost of marketing that comes from being a crowdfunding campaign, which is what I think is the best part about being on Kickstarter. It isn't the selling of the games. It's the fact that you have this big boost of marketing behind it So you have this big initial sale of the game. And that's what everyone wants. I mean, yeah, sure, we really want it to sell for like 10, 20, 30 years. And then I can just make money while I'm sleeping. But it's the, I mean, that's the
Sure,
dream,
of
right?
course.
But
Absolutely.
but it's the idea of the marketing, just getting, with it being on Kickstarter or any crowdfunding fan, even GameFound, it gets a lot of attention. A lot of eyes are on it. And because people are always curious. So like, well, I don't really want to back anything on Kickstarter, but I'm just curious to see what's on Kickstarter now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's the main reason. I mean, also it helps mitigate cost, mitigates risk, so like, but most North American publishers that I know, like they do publishing print runs of 5, 10, 15,000 minimum, just because that's where you get the best markup. Like you could print out 500, but then your markup isn't great.
Sure.
So you're going to print that much anyway. And I think what people forget is that what's great about Kickstarter is that it's like a pre-order, right? In a way, I mean, they say it's not because you're not guaranteed the product.
Sure.
But essentially it is. And so maybe you print out 10,000 units, maybe you get, 5,000 backers. So you sold half of your stock already. And but then you're sitting on that 5,000. Well, those 5,000 people will have friends and maybe they'll buy it. Then maybe Walmart or Target sees that as like, hey, you know what? We'll pick up 5,000 as well. So it's a means to an end. And that's the main reason why a lot of publishers use Kickstarter. And like board games are really expensive, like to make. I don't think people understand that. Like they're not cheap. And so the crowdfunding is probably the only way to make like these really, really nice games. I mean, you can make like a nicer, I don't know, Gloomhaven, you can make Gloomhaven even cheaper, but you may not want it that cheaper. Oathsworn, great game, right? But like not crowdfunded. Maybe you can do it without the miniatures. Do you want to play that? I don't know. I mean, I would still want to play it, but the miniatures help draw you in, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely, yeah.
So it's especially on Kickstarter, because you look at Kickstarter, like it's got minis, boom, add in like maybe another million right there. It's just wild.
I mean, that's what
stuff.
that's what I do look at projects that obviously have large minis, and you get kind of drawn into all the art, and then they have some painted ones that they did, and so you're like, okay, that looks spectacular, and that I mean, again, we can't have those products without Kickstarter. I think it'd be almost impossible. Like it's just not doable.
It's a huge expense, and it's a huge gamble on a publisher. Like publishers could bankrupt themselves if they didn't have those pre-sales done.
So it's not something that can be done easily. And so, no, that's so so we said late August, September of this year, 2025?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We'll be demoing the Game Makers at Origins, at Gen Con, and at Spiel. By Spiel, the campaign should have ended by then, but we'll still be running it, and people can always late pledge as well.
Perfect. So I have one more question for the Game Makers here. So
do it.
Out of all the games that are in the Game Makers, do you have a favorite game inside of the game of Game Makers?
We know that he does. We know that he does. The question is, contractually, can he say it?
Oh, no, I can say it. Renee, bless her heart, Renee actually went to every team member of Bezier and tried to say, like, what's your favorite game? I'm going to try and get into Game Makers. So like, she tried to get everyone's favorite game into Game Makers. And that was really awesome. I got Android Netrunner in Game Makers, and that's my victory. You can't get Android Netrunner anymore. It's out of print. Netrunner itself still exists, and it still exists in a great form, great people, but it's my favorite card game of all time, and it's in Game Makers, and I'm super happy.
That's awesome.
And I will build it.
Every time.
I just love that game. Every time. I don't care. It might cost me the game, but to see it on my display case,
that's awesome.
Fills me with a lot of joy. I'm just like,
cool.
No.
It sounds like Renee needs a raise. That's what I'm hearing out of this conversation.
I think she would argue yes, and two, a vacation. She would want a
that's
vacation
true. Yeah.
First.
Well,
there you go.
But anyways, so we got some other Bezier products coming out this year. Like you mentioned, there's a sequel for Rebel Princess, and I think you've got a couple expansions for Xylotar and Maglev. Is that right?
Yes. We are I think it's the last week of our Maglev Metro campaign on Kickstarter, where we introduced like 6 more maps. So now it's like 14 maps as well. And it's just an over to the top pick up and the deliver train game, logistics game. But like the tiles are acrylic, so that way you can never block your opponent's tracks. You can only block yourself. So if you lose a game, it's your fault.
Love that.
In this nice, fun way. But yeah, Xylotar this is an interesting year because I market it as the year of fear because we have like Zombie Princess and Haunted Mouse and the Silver Games. But it is also in a way the year of sequels, and board games don't get many sequels, right? Like they do a little bit more now, but not as before. Like so you have like Rebel Princess has its expansion with more princesses and stuff, but it's its future timeline sequel, Zombie Princess. We have Xylotar has its own expansion of Xylotar Unhinged, so you could find out the story of what happened to this musician polar bear hiding in the Arctic, which is a continuation of the story. We have Scream, which is the continuation of Scram. So Scram was just campers come back to their campsite and they're having a battle with these animals to see who can control the campsite. And Scream says, I forget exactly what it is, but this is how I remember it, is that the humans lost the battle. Animals won. Go Bears. And humans, were bitter and competitive. Jared, they couldn't let go of that competitive spirit.
Never.
Couldn't have a tiebreaker. So they opened up the Necronomicon and opened up some arcane magic and have unleashed cinematic horrors onto the planet. Animals lost. But now humans have a different problem where they're fighting giants, beasts hiding in mists, girls crawling out of wells, hockey fans who take strolls with machetes around a lake.
I love that.
They're dealing with those things like that. Or aliens that hunt through sound, and kill John Krasinski. But that was a spoiler.
I
that
know
was a
what
spoiler.
you're talking about, but I'm going to let it be.
It's been out for a while. I mean, what do you do?
It's been out for a while. There's a third one by now.
That's right.
And it's fun to see. The art is so much fun in Scream. And now it'll be coming out in Gen Con as well. It's a nice, fun, light, bluffing card game. And people have really been enjoying that one. It's just nice, fun, silly game.
I'm excited for that. Scram actually was a bigger hit with our group than I expected it to be. And
oh, wow.
Yeah, I'm excited to add Scream to it because, well, I will say this especially, it pulled in some new people who aren't used to gaming, and they loved it.
Oh, awesome.
So Scream, and then Xylotar is a big hit with the kids. So we're going to be getting that one as well. And then everybody loves Rebel Princess, of course. So we're excited, man. I haven't tried Maglev Metro, but I really need to. But excited for the other ones.
You should. Not everyone's a train gamer, but I think that's Maglev Metro is one of those train games I think that is really good for people who aren't necessarily into train games because it deals so much with engine building. Okay. And my favorite part of Maglev Metro is the fact that it's engine building and unbuilding.
Okay.
Like usually in a board game, you're building an engine, but like 2/3 of the game is like, well, this is the room I'm in now. I'm just kind of stuck here and my engine is very weird and wonky, but it does this really well. So I'm just going to roll with this and see where it goes.
Right.
But in Maglev Metro, you could take apart your engine and rebuild it. And you could be like, oh, you want to lay track really well? Well, then maybe you don't lay track anymore. Maybe you just pick up and deliver really well. Yeah. Maybe you can pick up a lot of people and then deliver a lot of people and you move slower. And you could change your engine depending on the map, depending on where you are in the game. And that to me is the most fun part because most engine building games don't allow for that flexibility.
Sure. Okay. I'll do it. Yeah. I'll check it out.
It's like a deck, like a deck building game. Like when you play Dominion, you're like, well, this deck sucks.
And about halfway through.
Yep. And you're like, there's no recovering. We're done.
It's like you're like, I guess I'll get like a silver. And then Ian's like, province, gold. You're like, okay, I have lost this game. But like Maglev Metro you could take your deck apart and like put other cards in. Like it makes
that's cool.
It has that feeling to it.
No, I'll have to check that out. That's definitely awesome. Sounds like it could be right up our alley. Do you have any? I know Game Makers is like going to be the priority for 26, but do you have anything else on the horizon with Bezier?
Well, Haunted Mouse and Zombie Princess will be a Kickstarter, and we're going to launch those, I believe, the week of Halloween, which is, I think it'll be, usually it's a Tuesday, so it'll be October 28th. And we're going to pair those two together. So Zombie Princess and Haunted Mouse. Haunted Mouse is the reimplementation of a game called Spring Cleaning. And it was designed by Jonathan Cox from John Gets Games, now known as Getting Games.
Yeah.
He's an influencer, has a YouTube channel, does really great tutorials. And he made this game because he didn't like Scout. And so, like, he liked Scout, then he liked it less and less the more he played it. And then he decided to design a shedding game where you can, I guess the twist is that, let's see here, in Scouts, like, if I pass, then I take a card from your hand and put it in my hand, right? Or the meld that you played and put it in my hand. Well, in Spring Cleaning, there's this card economy where at all times your card's down in front of you. Like, you have two hands. You have a hand that's face up in front of you that everyone can see, and then you have a hand that's in your cards. And when you play a card, like a meld into like the center of the table, like pair of twos, pair of threes, whatever, a straight run, I could use those public cards from everybody. So I could take Ian's 2, I could take Jared's 3, and I can use my 1 and 4, and then I have a straight.
Wow.
Interesting.
But the trade-off is that because I used your cards, I'm helping you go out faster. So there's this: do I do that or do I not? And then there's, for me, it's still like Scout where you can't rearrange your hand, but you can take cards out and put them in front of you. So that gives you a little bit more flexibility, and it gives you this moment where you can entice people to take your card. And there's a method to that madness because, like, oh, you put out a 2, they put out a 3. I'm going to put out this 4 and see if someone takes it. Because, like, hey, you could take this and make a straight. Look how great that is.
Yeah.
Don't you want to take this 4? It's like, he has a 4, I have a 4. Now you can have a pair of 4s. Don't you want 3 of a kind? Like, there are these little moments in the game that happen from that. And we called it Haunted Mouse because I think we changed it from Spring Cleaning, this idea of cleaning your house, because we wanted something with cute artwork. So we got Sai Beppu to do a cute little mouse who lives in a cathedral, and all the mice are named after cheese. So you have like Brie, you have Roquefort, you have like these great, like just Jacques, I think is one of them. I think that's why it had to be French, because you have Roquefort and Jacques. And their idea is that your cards are your nightmares, and if you shed your nightmares, your fears out, then you can wake up, and then you can go get cheese.
That's perfect. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah, and the first person to get the most, like 7 cheese wins the game, and 7 cheese is like, it completes your wheel of cheese.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's very cute, very approachable. But we thought 2 card games would be paired really well with each other.
It sounds
That's
like
awesome.
a Bezier game. Like, as you were describing, I was like, this only works for Bezier, and it just fits so well.
Oh, yeah. I think we've done really well with the cards and pushing card games out, and I think it works well because I think that's, I don't know. I mean, I love big games too. Like my wife's favorite game is Kanban EV, and we play Kanban EV like at least once a week at the bare minimum. So, but I also like card games as well, and it just kind of fits.
We discussed last time you were on this podcast, we talked a little bit about kind of the direction that some games are going and how like portable games are going here and there, and everybody loves something like that. I do want to ask this though, is because in our last interview with you, you mentioned your favorite trick-taking game was Cat in the Box, and your favorite card shedding game was Sears Catalog. Now I want to ask you, are you still holding true to those two, or has it changed since the last time we talked to you?
I still have to say my favorite, I don't know, like my favorite shedding game still might be Sears Catalog. Although, like, Haunted Mouse is really good. It's really good. One shedding game that I really love, that I've grown to love even more, is Revolve. Revolve is from the same designer as Scout, but it's just so good. It's a lot cleaner, Scout, and it's a lot more interactive, I think. Trick-taking games? Oh, man, I play a lot of trick-taking games. Because of the Cardboard East channel.
Yeah.
And I review board games from Asia. I'm reviewing trick-taking games that come from Japan, and Japan makes, I don't know, 50 trick-taking games every year.
Oh, he has to look at the shelf.
Is it looking at the shelf? I still think very recently I made a video about my top 20 trick-taking games of all time. I still think it's Cat in the Box. And
there you go.
At least it is for now. I think it's because, I teach a lot of Cat in the Box because I go to conventions for Bezier and I teach Cat in the Box, and I still find it fun to play. Like it's never not boring. It's tough though, because man, oh man, like Rebel Princess is a lot of fun, and that might overtake it. Like I think I really like Rebel. I think I like Xenoblade Princess the most though. something
Okay,
about
okay.
zombies, hunting
So we
zombies, having armed princesses, and like the artwork. I gotta tell you, like that was my favorite week of work. Um, in 2025 was everyone sitting down for like a nice little hour, 2 hour meeting, and we debated the princess's name of their weapon.
Ooh.
Like, what weapon do they have? What's the name of their attack? What does it do? Like, and just and then what the
That's
art
such
should
a
look
fun
like.
time.
And that was a killer meeting. And like we had like the question was like Thumbelina. What should Thumbelina do? Thumbelina has to be on a tomato pincushion with like a button shield holding a needle sword. Like, and like everyone's like, yeah, of course. That's the obvious answer. And like Cinderella, I was like, what would Cinderella be? And like, I don't know, but she's got to be a bombardier, but with pumpkin grenades. You know, like that to me makes sense.
Jay, I feel
That's
like
right.
you were
And
born
there was
for that
like,
meeting. That meeting, like you were put on this earth to have that meeting.
well, I could, I mean, I was very
Yeah.
happy that meeting. I was very happy that meeting. I remember Red Riding Hood was tempting to be like, I initially wanted Red Riding Hood to have axe wielding and riding a dire wolf.
Nice.
Like just be this, just, like this warrior princess kind of a thing. But then I thought, we have a lot of princesses with weapons, and I always think of my friend Joe back on the island, who always plays support. Like we needed Gloomhaven, he'd be the support guy. Josh would be the tank, Joe would be support. So I thought, we need a support. So I thought Red Riding Hood should be the dude from Resident Evil 4 who opens up the trench coat, is like, what are you looking for? And so like has like all these weapons hidden in her red hood that she's
That's
selling.
fantastic.
I'm like, like that to me was better than the dire wolf.
So I'm curious because this kind of ties back to the worker placement aspect with game makers, but also for things like trick taking. So you play a lot of trick taking and shedding games, right? I mean, I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
a lot. I
you can see that wall behind you.
Well,
It's just a lot.
just a little bit that I've like skimmed your channel. I'm like, man, this dude plays a lot of trick taking games. I mean, good on you. That's awesome. But I'm curious. Does it ever start to just feel like you're playing the same game?
That's interesting because that's my favorite part about trick taking games is that you are in a way playing the same game. And it's I equate this to people who really love 18xx or people who love Ticket to Ride, right? Like you like 18xx because of the system, and then every time you play a different 18xx map, and 18xx is a train game if people don't know. It's like the ultimate train game simulator. People like it because each map has a different wrinkle to the formula. Ticket to Ride is kind of the same way. It's Ticket to Ride, but each map
its own
adds something different, twist to the spin. Yep. And so there's taking is kind of like that as well. It's a lot of similar strategies overlap from game to game to game, but it's those wrinkles, those differences that make it really fun. Someone asked that exact same question to someone else, and he gave the best answer that I heard of. And the answer was really simple. He's like, there's a famous French book that talks about a man who goes on a bus. He rides the bus. He looks out his window and he sees some altercation that happens out the window. And then he gets off the bus. And that's just one chapter of the book. But every chapter is the same story, but it's the exact same story. Guy gets on the bus. He sees something. He gets off the bus. But each chapter is told in a different way. Like one is like a rom-com. One is like noir. One is like a gritty, a gritty story. One's like a spastic comedy. Each one is told in a slightly different way in different context. And that's how trick taking is to him. It's this idea of telling the same story, but with different characters and slightly different wrinkles. And that's what makes it a little bit more fun. It's like The Wire, like the first season of The Wire, the second season, third season, fourth season, fifth season of The Wire, just to get like full bro mode here.
it's great.
It's to see the same characters in a different environment on a different case and just reacting a little bit differently to everything. And it's fun to see those changes.
I mean, that's a great way of looking at it. Dude, I don't know. I love talking to you because I feel like you give me a different perspective on the hobby every time we talk. Because I remember our last interview, man. It really, like, Ian and I walked away from it with a different perspective on how to look at board game costs and, how to think about when you're reviewing a game or talking about a game. Yeah, there's still pieces of a game that I can be critical about components but it's not as, it's a different lens than I had before, because now I get to think through, okay, well, what would that publisher have to do from a cost perspective to make that change? And then it's like, okay, that makes sense why they chose not to go that route. And we were playing a different game not too long ago that was actually a worker placement, and I was like, yeah, this is a good worker placement game, but what does it do differently than the other ones do? And that's the question that I constantly
Yeah.
have going through my head, because we kind of have reached that point in the hobby, right, where most of the things have been
Oh
done.
yeah.
And so how do you look at a new game versus the game that you really love in the same space?
It's always interesting, right? Like there's a lot of games. Shut Up and Sit Down did a video where I think they're reviewing
Mm.
Gollum, which is a really
Yeah.
good, solid Euro resource management game. And in the video, I think Tom said something like, "We don't review a lot of strategy games because we feel that they kind of all the same. Like, how is this one a little bit different than the other? Similar to trick taking, right? But I think that there's beauty in that though, right? There's a little bit of beauty in there. Like, I think about my childhood growing up as a kid, playing all the 8-bit Nintendo games and Super
Yep.
Nintendo games that I played. Like, their platformers are kind of the same, but they're not, right? We enjoy them. You might enjoy platformers and you might enjoy Mega Man more than Metroid. Maybe you like Metroidvania games, but it's that style of game that you like. And I don't think like one Metroid game is different. I mean, there are some that I like more than others, but that doesn't mean that just because Super Metroid is older doesn't mean Hollow Knight's a bad
Sure.
game or that copied it, right? It's just, they're both excellent games in very different ways. And I think board games are the exact same way, right? Like you could watch, I don't know, man. Like I thought I'd seen every superhero animated film
Sure.
ever. And then I saw Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. I had never seen animation like that before. I had never seen storytelling done like that well, that quickly. And it hit on so many levels. The idea of seeing like a middle-aged Spider-Man was so
Awesome.
fascinating. Like what do you do with a Spider-Man that's like, who's just like, this is the part where he talks about blah, 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 blah. I know. I just, who's been around the block and he's just kind of going through the motions of being an amazing superhero. But I think humans will always find a way to surprise you, and there'll be some games that feel a little bit more wash, rinse, repeat. But every now and then you see something that just brand new comes along and you're like, whoa, and it just reminds you of why you love this hobby so much.
Absolutely. No, and I think we got that with Game Makers. I mean, we came home gushing about this game. I mean, to the point that some of our listeners make fun of us for how much we like it. And I had one friend, he'd be like, all right, so tell me about it. Like, what about it made it so special? And I remember telling him, like, it was the very first thing that came out of my mouth. I said, you could see the love in this game for the hobby as a whole, and you get glimpses of that in certain games, but to have it spread across the entirety of the game and to see things like, it's trying so hard to be streamlined and work well in that hour and a half window, but it also really feeds into the medium heavyweight kind of realm to give you all that you want, and it's got all these different aspects that everyone knows about, and then you've got the actual games, and then you've got and you just keep going. And he like slowly started like, yeah, just in you describing it, I get it. So it's part of the reason we're so excited about it. It is a beast.
It's a beast. It's a beast of a game. But it's like when we do marketing meetings and we're like, how are we going to market the game? And I pitched the idea that unlike any other board game that Bezier has done, and unlike most board games out today, this game is going to resonate on an emotional level that other board games can't touch because of just the theme and how it's implemented and everything about that. It's going to resonate with people on an emotional level that they may not be prepared for, because you get to see a game that's about celebrating your hobby and in a very, very interesting way. And it's really funny too, because like I had just spent, oh brother, I spent hours going over like maybe half the cards, going like, okay, is there a die in this game? There's a die on the contract requirement, but is there a die in the game? And trying to tweak that out. And like, like Feudum, we had dice as a requirement, but there's a lot of components in Feudum, And then I realized that, the dice in Feudum aren't really dice. They're just wooden cubes that are painted. So I'm going to chalk that up to a wooden component and take away the dice. Even though dice are a very integral part of the game, but like going through all those cards, going through like subjectively, what's a level 1, level 2, level 3 wood game, and like going through like Kingdom Death Monster, like, yes, that is like 10. That's like a lot of cards. Probably more cards than any other game. That's be nothing but cards. Biggest plastic you can get, biggest die you can get. Like these are those moments that you have. And then I looked at what's Mountain Goats from All Play, right? Like look at the components of that. Like what are the Mountain Goats were a contract? What would the requirements be for that contract? And so I'm like, because I want it to make sense. We want it to make somewhat sense. We don't want to die on a contract for a game that doesn't have a die, because then people will be like, oh my god, because BGG users will totally 100%. Do that.
Well, and there's this, there's also, I mean, despite like wanting to avoid criticism, you guys are showing that there is this desire to make something that's truly authentic and like you said, a love letter to this hobby.
Yeah, and it's I resolved and I pitched the idea that mountain goats should be like level 1 of everything, like level 1 die, level 1 wood, level 1 cards, and just because that's just a little bit of everything, not too much of anything, but just a little bit of everything. And I think that's where I think I fell on it. Like maybe like level 1 punch board, or even though it's not punch board, it's cards. And it's weird, man, when you look at all these games and you look at just like you got to make sure that the contracts make sense. It was brutal, but I loved doing it. And you eventually get a rhythm for it after a while.
Very cool. All right, man. Well, we do have to wrap up, but I want to finish with this. Is there anything on the horizon with Cardboard East?
Well, man, I just got my Tokyo Game Market haul. So I'm going to be playing that a lot. So there'll be a video about all of those. I filmed myself the other day unboxing my box because I had some mules buy the things and they shipped it to me. And some publishers put some games in there that I didn't know about. And I was like, yeah, we just put some stuff in the box. I'm like, oh, okay. So I had no idea. I mean, I had an idea, but I had no idea what's in the box. So that's something that's fun. One of the bigger videos that's coming out is like every Itten game. Itten is a Japanese publisher who makes interactive art. I think is the best way I could describe their games. I'm going to be ranking all their games that they've released and showcasing them, like how wild of a publisher they are. One that I just filmed was Korean board games. And I did something a little bit different this time. It's going to probably be like an hour-long video. It'll be the first part will be just me talking about my favorite publishers and designers to give people like this is the landscape of board game scene in Korea. It's what it kind of looks like. These are publishers that you could probably pay attention to. And then I just did my top 10 at the very end of like, these are my top 10 favorite games from Korea. And I wanted to add that one context part to the beginning because I think it's really useful for people because I get a lot of comments about that. It's like, I don't know anything about games from X country. Can you give me like a introduction or a roadmap to what that would look like? And I thought, I'll just push that into one big giant video, see where that takes me. But yeah, it was fun to talk about the different publishers from Korea, what they're like, giving them context as to if I don't know anything about them, what would that be like for me as a game from North America? Korea Board Games, the company Korea Board Games is a huge company. I can't stress enough. Like when you mentioned earlier, like a lot of board game companies are small, right? Like maybe 10 people. Restoration Games is remote, right? They all work remotely. A lot of board game companies are remote. But Korea Board Games has a building, not an office,
That's
building
awesome.
with floors, a building. They're like Samsung in a way. Like they're just huge, monstrously huge. Like once a year, they redesign a town in Korea and retheme it for like big mini convention. Like that's nuts. Like one publisher that does that. That's
insane.
Wild to think about. So like it's when I tell people like think of them as the op of Korea, but like bigger proportion wise. Like it's like they're Hasbro. Think about like if they were Hasbro, the same size as Hasbro, but like in a country the size of California, something like that. And so it's give people like that context there of like of Korean board games. Because I think, and I'm like, I wanted to do that because I think that people don't, one, they play board games from Korea enough. And my wife and I had just made a batch of kimchi because we make our own kimchi. And so, like, I was looking at the kimchi and I was thinking, "Ooh, I probably put too much spice in the mix this time. So it's going to probably taste a little off. 2, I don't have any Korean t shirts. And 3, people should know more about Korean board games.
That's awesome. I love it, man.
There
I,
you
That's the
go.
upcoming
I really
video I
do.
have.
Like, I told you when we talked last time, but I love the addition you bring to the hobby. It's a
Oh,
whole
thanks,
new
man.
world over there, and a lot of gamers
Yeah,
know nothing about
wild.
Yeah.
It's but the coolest thing is that even though it's another country, there's still
100%.
gamers, right? Like Taiwanese gamers asking me what's the tiebreaker before we even
Yes,
play the
love
game.
that.
Like, it's we speak different languages, but we all speak gamer.
Exactly.
And good games have no
Sure.
borders. You know, if it's a good game, someone from that country is going to license it and sell it there.
That's so
Yeah,
cool.
that's true.
I love it, man. I love it. Well, Jay, thank you so much, man. Looking forward to all that Bezier has. Looking forward to Game Makers and all that you got going on. I think it's really cool.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Jared. I love these chats with you and Ian. They're always good. And when you guys see you and you have fun town, it's always
Absolutely,
good.
absolutely. So, hey, thank you to listeners. I'll have links in the description for Jay's stuff and for our stuff. So please check us out. Again, special thanks to Jay for joining us today. Also, special thanks to Angie Santiago for our cover art, to Anna Snyder who made the intro and outro music, and we will see you guys next time. We'll have another episode podcast-wise next week. And in the meantime, may your dice rolls and your card draws be blessed, and your experiences at the table be ones to remember forever.